Hi guys, we've all been kind of wondering if Call of Duty World War II Vanguard would show up at E3 this year because it's a very typical place for a new COD to be announced and shown off, but with the panoramic going on, E3's digital this year, and so things are a little different, and there's been a possibility that maybe Activision would choose to show it somewhere else instead. That possibility has now turned into reality. Activision will not be revealing Vanguard at E3, and instead will most likely, according to a new leak that's just come out, be revealing it via an in-game event in Warzone, like it did last year with Black Ops Cold War. So back to World War II Vanguard, I mentioned there'd be an event later this year in Warzone, and it's actually going to be a bigger deal than what we had last year with the reveal for Cold War, because with that, we basically had a little LTM for the reveal itself, and then it took until, like 6 months after the game came out or something for us to get our 1980s update where we actually had a map refresh. Thankfully, that wait will be a lot shorter this time round, and it will be more transformative and a more meaningful update because the 1980s Verdansk is still pretty much Verdansk, whereas this one is intended to be a much bigger change, and it will launch alongside World War II Vanguard, so those things will happen simultaneously. The new map is set in the Pacific Theater of World War II. It's significantly larger than the current Warzone Verdansk environment, and thanks to technology updates powered by the Modern Warfare engine, which both World War II Vanguard and Warzone will be running on, they'll also be able to do things like add in new vehicles to cater to that massive map size, and also probably to compete with the fact that Battlefield's going to be coming out, and that's going to have obviously massive scale maps and loads of vehicles and cool stuff like that as well. Now, I don't know about you guys, and please do let me know in the comments down below, but I think this sounds really exciting because it's going to mean that we're most likely going to get old World at War locations, for instance, that were classics in that campaign and also in the multiplayer that are going to be returning in this game now in this new massive Pacific Theater map. The opportunities for that are just endless pretty much, and I personally was a huge fan of World at War multiplayer, and so any kind of old hints and nostalgia that they do bring back there will be very greatly appreciated on my end. Now, interestingly, that's not all that was said in this leak from Andy from Video Games Chronicle. There's also discussion of the setting in which the zombies mode is going to take place. So we've known that the campaign is going to be set during World War II, and thus the MP would be as well, but we now have word that the zombies mode is going to be set in both the European and Pacific theaters of the war. And it seems the implications of this is that if Treyarch are going to be working on the zombies mode, which is what we've had rumored in the last couple of weeks, alongside Sledgehammer working on it too, we're probably going to see continuation of the unification of the Call of Duty universes. So while it isn't technically a Treyarch COD and it's not technically Treyarch Zombies, they are working on it and the universes are blending together, and so it's pretty much a perfect staging ground for them to explore some of the early history of the new Zombies story, including stuff that would have happened with Project Endstation, because we know that that originally was set up during World War II, and also spend more time exploring characters like Vogel and even Dr. Strauss, who were part of that program back in the day. There's also ample opportunity here, if all of this is going to be happening, for the devs to say, well, we're bringing back a load of nostalgia content for Warzone and for the multiplayer in Vanguard and probably for the campaign too, and so just like we've done many years in a row now, we might as well integrate that work that we're already doing into Zombies and make our lives a bit easier in that regard. So things that have already been developed in the past that fit the setting and theme would make perfect sense to suddenly make a return in Zombies here, and that's why we saw things like Nachtor on Toten popping back up in D Machine, and why I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get to World War II Vanguard launch and boom, Verrucht is just remade and is part of the map somehow. Or maybe it's going to be De Ries. I mean, that's more of a fan favorite and a bit more of a kind of iconic classic, and both of those maps actually are perfect examples because they're based on maps that were already made for the World at War campaign and for World War II's multiplayer. Am I saying that I want that to happen and I really want to see De Ries back all over again? Well, not necessarily. I'm just saying that I think that that seems to be what might be being hinted at here with these leaks and the most likely thing to actually come true. Are you tired of remakes? Do you think that getting another De Ries would just be the nail in the coffin for the zombies mode, or would it be fine? Whatever your opinion, let me know in the comments down below. But before you go, well, I just actually don't think that it's going to be related to Treyarch Zombies at all, and it's just going to be a separate thing entirely. it's also been leaked, seemingly, that Treyarch perks are going to be returning in some way, shape, or form in World War II. So that, to me, basically is the kind of nail in the coffin that we are indeed going to be pretty much getting a Cold War Season 2 almost, except it won't be in Cold War, it will be in the new game instead. So all the stuff that's being built up in the story right now, with Samantha obviously working with Requiem, but then being betrayed by them to some extent, the activities of the Omega Group in Russia and their plans to carry out Operacja Inversia, and this big looming threat of the One that's kind of in the background right now that we know very little about, that is definitely looming for a season conclusion, all of that stuff may actually be the fundamental building blocks leading us to a new story emerging in World War II. So, for instance, we just saw with the whole nuke thing in Verdansk bringing us back to Verdansk in the 80s, that those sorts of themes are currently being explored, and what have we got right now in the zombie story? We've got massive missiles that are Ethereum infused that open portals to the Dark Ether and outbreak zones where they land, and there's absolutely potential that somewhere amongst what's happening in the Cold War, they send one of those missiles into part of the Pacific or European theaters, and maybe at that point in time, there'll already be operators there or something, and they'll be teleported back to the past in the World War II kind of setting, and thus the World War II story emerges. You've also got to keep in mind that there's a theory that's been floating around for a little while now that there may not actually be 4 DLC maps for Cold War. We've obviously got 1 so far, and we've obviously got Outbreak 2, but the next round-based map after Firebase Z is going to be this German Berlin facility, and then we don't know what the next one is, but then after that, it seems to be a mystery. There's been no leaks hinting at a 4th map, there's been no chatter about a 4th map existing. It just seems like it might not be planned, and so maybe the reason for that is that we're going to be getting this round-based map in Berlin, we're then going to be going on to the finale of the Cold War Zombies season, and then Treyarch will be pulling all of their resources over to basically make DLC4, except make it for launch with World War II. This would fit with the fact that they've kind of run out of time to actually release a 4th DLC map anyway at this point, in my opinion, and so it seems like that might actually be what's going to happen. So let me know your thoughts on that below. Like I've said, I've been MrRoflWaffles. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, then please drop a like and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the near future. Thanks, bye for now.